The banker slid the folder toward me like it was a courtesy. White paper. Black ink. Our crest embossed in the corner. The Wycliffe mark Bram stamped onto everything that moved through his world. "Mrs. Wycliffe," the banker said, voice smooth as varnish, "if you'll confirm the authorization, we can release the transfer before market close." Across the table, Bram's cufflinks caught the glass room light 2 diamonds set into platinum. His hand rested on the chair arm like he owned the building, the city, the air. I looked down. Transfer amount, $19 billion. $19 billion. My breath didn't snag. I didn't gasp. I didn't glance at Bram as if I needed his permission to understand numbers. Men like him survived on reactions, on women becoming a scene they could label unstable and file away. Instead, I ran my thumb along the page edge. Because the signature at the bottom mine wasn't mine. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow I have a special story for you. The room smelled like bergamot and money. Glass walls framed the river and the skyline beyond it. People thought wealth lived above consequence. They didn't understand consequence climbed quietly, patiently, until it stood where you couldn't ignore it. Bram's knee pressed against mine beneath the table. A private touch meant to look affectionate and feel like a reminder. Smile. Agree. Don't ask for details. I lifted my eyes to the banker. "I'd like the full chain, please. Not just the summary sheet. The signing certificate, device attribution, and the original board resolution file." The banker hesitated a blink too long, then nodded. His gaze flicked to Bram, then back to me. Of course. Bram's smile didn't move. "Rhea," he murmured, gentle enough to sound kind. "We've been over this. Have we?" I kept my expression calm. "We've been over many things," I said. "Not this." The banker opened the folder and began turning pages, careful and reverent. Spousal consent. Trustee approval. Digital signing certificate. Board resolution stamped with Wycliffe Group seal. "Here," the banker said, tapping a certificate. "This confirms the instruction came from your authorized device, Mrs. Wycliffe. My authorized device. My phone. My fingerprint. My marriage." I looked at Bram. His eyes were pale and unreadable. "You're tired," he said. "You've been working too much lately." Working like my work was a harmless habit. I smiled. Not sweet. Not submissive. Just calm. "Would you excuse me one moment?" I asked the banker. "I need to verify something." Bram's knee pressed harder. I stood anyway. In the restroom down the hall, marble counters gleamed like ice. I washed my hands slowly and watched my reflection. Cream blouse. Pearl earrings Bram chose because he liked the look of old money. A ring that felt less like a promise and more like a seal. My face looked composed, but my eyes had shifted. There is a moment when you realize the man you married isn't just selfish. He is dangerous. And worse, he believes you're too small to notice. I took my phone from my purse and opened the app tapped behind a harmless icon. Orchid. Years ago, it was a prototype and internal model designed to compare ledgers, detect anomalies, and flag fraud inside systems I had lawful access to. Bram heard consulting and never asked more. Let her play with her numbers. Orchid loaded clean and quiet. A red banner flashed. Anomaly detected, high severity. My throat tightened once, then steadied. 19 billion wasn't a transfer. It was an evacuation. Orchid mapped the flow in seconds. Layered entities, a chain built to confuse auditors, a destination account held by a private vehicle registered under a name. I recognized the way you recognize a scar. Strathmere Holdings, Bram's mother's maiden name. Orchid flagged a duplicated signing token. A spoofed device fingerprint. Timestamps that didn't match my location history. My identity used as a mask. Someone had used my marriage as a weapon. I locked my phone and stared at the marble. Pain rose hot, instinctive. Then it cooled into clarity. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to shout. I was going to read the system, then remove the parts built to crush me. When I returned to the conference room, Bram's smile widened with relief. He thought I'd gone to steady myself. He thought I'd gone to remember my place. I sat, folded my hands, and met the banker's eyes. "Everything all right?" the banker asked. "Perfect," I said. Bram leaned toward me, voice low. "Sign." I picked up the pen. The banker leaned forward slightly, anticipation bright. I set the pen down, then slid the folder back across the table. "I'm not authorizing this," I said. Silence crowded silence. The banker's face stiffened. "Mrs. Wycliffe, I'm not authorizing this," I repeated. "And I'm requesting your compliance department preserve every record related to this instruction. Immediately, all logs, all device attributions, all internal communications." Bram's smile stayed in place, but his eyes sharpened. "Rhea," he warned. I turned to him. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? It's a standard restructuring," he said. 19 billion doesn't restructure, I replied. It disappears. I stood, gathered my purse, and gave the banker a polite smile that felt like a door shutting. "Thank you for your time. You'll hear from my counsel." Bram rose so fast his chair scraped the floor, too loud for a room like that. He took my elbow-like pressure, no witness's possession disguised as affection. In the elevator, cameras watched us. Bram's thumb pressed into the small bone of my elbow. Slow and steady. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "I'm stopping a crime," I said. He chuckled softly. "You always loved drama in spreadsheets." We stepped into the lobby sunlight. To anyone watching, we were perfect. In the car, the door shut, and Bram's mask fell. "You embarrassed me," he said. "I stopped you," I replied. "You don't understand what you just did," he said, voice colder. "That money moves whether you like it or not." "I saw the destination," I said. "Strathmere." For half a second, something flickered across his face recognition. Then contempt settled back in. "Signatures are formalities," he said. 19 billion is not a formality, I replied. He leaned back. "You're forgetting our arrangement." "Arrangement, not marriage. Contract. If you want to stay married," he said, "you'll fix this. Call the bank. Authorize the transfer." "And if I don't?" I asked. His smile thinned. "Then I'll file. I'll make it clean and fast. And I'll make sure everyone understands why." "Why?" I echoed. "Because you're unstable," he said. "Exhausted. Fixating the modern word for a woman who notices." The penthouse tower rose ahead like a blade. Bram straightened his tie. "Be smart," he said. "Don't make me your enemy." I almost laughed, because he already was. Upstairs, the penthouse was curated peace. Soft neutrals, expensive art, silence designed to feel luxurious. "Call the bank," Bram said, heading for the bar. "Don't waste my time." "I'm going to my office," I replied. My office. The room Bram tolerated because he believed it was harmless. I closed the door, slid the bookshelf aside, and stepped into the hidden space behind it. Soundproofed, private, mine. Orchid's dashboard glowed, calm and relentless. Fraud likelihood, 99.6%. Secondary finding, coordinated asset stripping. He wasn't making one move. He was hollowing out the empire, and he intended to use my name as the scapegoat when the house collapsed. My phone buzzed. "Bram, did you call the bank?" I didn't answer. I opened an encrypted chat instead. Juno. Her reply came fast. Juno. You don't message me like this unless the house is on fire. Me. Bram tried to move $19 billion using my signature. A pause. Juno. Are you sure? I sent Orchid's preliminary report. Juno. Don't do anything alone. Call me. Now. I called. Her voice was clipped, clear. Where are you? In my office. Can he hear you? No. Good, she said. I'm calling Elias. He owes me 3 favors and a silence. Elias, the attorney Bram assumed belonged to him. What do I do? I asked. Preserve everything, Juno said. And don't tell Bram a single thing. He'll turn it into a story about your emotions. I can suspend the transfer, I said. Do it clean, she replied. Official controls. No theatrics. I opened the family office oversight portal ID insisted on after Bram's earlier creative deal. He'd signed the paperwork without reading it because he liked the word transparency in interviews. Biometric confirmation. Green light. Emergency controls. Transfer holds. I selected. $19 billion. HOLD pending investigation. Reason. Suspected fraudulent authorization. Preserve all records. Counsel to follow. Confirm, no siren. No drama. Just a status change. Transfer status. Suspended. I sent Bram one message that gave him nothing to chew on. Me. Reviewing documentation. We'll talk after dinner. Bram? Fine. Don't be late. Don't be late like my life existed on his schedule. That night, Bram tried to perform normal. He insisted we go out, as if proximity to linen napkins and low lighting could turn attempted theft into a misunderstanding. He invited the Carraways' old friends of his, the kind of couple who treated Bram's money like it was their shared religion. The restaurant was private, quiet, expensive enough to make silence feel like a feature. A corner table, a view of the city, waiters who moved like shadows. Bram, Mrs. Carraway sang when they arrived, kissing his cheek. You look exhausted. Poor thing. The market's been brutal on you. Bram smiled like a man being admired was his natural state. Just a busy quarter. Mr. Carraway clasped Bram's shoulder. You always land on your feet. Then their eyes turned to me and paused, just long enough to say what they always said without words. Oh. She's here. Rhea, Mrs. Carraway said, polite as a blade. You look. Well. Thank you, I said. Bram ordered for everyone without asking. He always did. It was his way of reminding a table that control could be served in courses. As they talked, the Carraways laughed at Bram's jokes, admired his watch, praised his discipline. They spoke about deals like they were weather. Inevitable, untouchable, never personal. I let them fill the air. I let Bram shine. Because when people perform, they forget to watch their own hands. At one point, Mr. Carraway leaned back and said, You know what I respect about you, Bram? You don't get emotional. You keep things rational. Bram's eyes flicked toward me, quick and satisfied. Mrs. Carraway smiled at me as if offering advice. It's easier for men, isn't it? They're built for pressure. We women just... She shrugged. We need someone to steady us. I set my napkin down with deliberate care. Some of us steady ourselves, I said. Her smile faltered for half a second, then returned. Of course. Bram's hand found my knee beneath the table. Not affectionate. Instructive. After dinner, he murmured without moving his lips. You'll call the bank and fix this. You made a scene today. I kept my gaze on my plate. I stopped you, I said softly. His fingers tightened. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand exactly, I replied, still calm. Bram lifted his wineglass and smiled at the Caraways. Rhea's been stressed, he said lightly. Too much screen time. Mrs. Caraway laughed like it was a charming quirk. Oh yes, she's always been so serious. Serious. Another word for a woman who reads. I smiled politely. The way you smile at people who mistake your silence for surrender. Under the table, my phone vibrated once. Then again. I didn't check it. I didn't need to. I could feel the system shifting the way you feel a storm shift pressure in the air. Bram's phone lit up too. He glanced at it, quick, then flipped it face down as if ignoring it could change what it said. Mr. Caraway raised his glass. To Bram, he announced. Always winning. Bram raised his glass with a practiced grin. Always, he echoed. And I watched him toast to a victory that had already been cancelled. Because while Bram performed, my phone silent in my purse received quiet confirmations. Compliance opened a case. Risk flagged the instruction. Preservation holds issued. A transfer hold was recorded under official controls. Bram's money wasn't moving. Not tonight. Not ever. When dinner ended, the Caraways kissed Bram's cheek again, and barely glanced at me on the way out, like I was part of the furniture that came with the man. In the car, Bram's smile disappeared the moment the door shut. He turned toward me, eyes cold. What did you do? I looked out the window at the city lights, steady and indifferent. I protected myself, I said. He scoffed. You went behind my back. You went behind my name, I replied. At the penthouse, he followed me into my office like a man stepping into a room he assumed belonged to him. Call the bank, he said. I'm not doing that, I replied. His hand gripped the desk edge, knuckles whitening. What do you want? The truth, I said. Why Strathmere? His face froze for a fraction of a second, then hardened. You think you're clever, he said. I am, I replied. People move money, he said, as if explaining gravity. They protect it. They position it. And they forge their wife's signature, I asked. He paused, then said it like a normal sentence. If they have to. The words didn't crush me. They clarified. Bram didn't see me as a partner. He saw me as an instrument. He stepped closer. Fix this, he said, or you'll regret it. Is that a threat? I asked. It's a promise, he said softly. I can ruin you. I can make you the villain in every boardroom and every headline. Who do you think they'll believe? The old instinct rose, shrink, soften, survive. Then Orchid's red banner flashed behind my eyes, and the instinct changed shape. I stood and moved for the door. Bram caught my wrist light enough for deniability, heavy enough for control. Let go, I said. You're not going anywhere, he replied. I didn't pull. I didn't panic. If you don't let go, I said, voice steady, I will make the call that turns this from a private betrayal into a public investigation. His grip tightened for one beat, then loosened. He released me like he'd never touched me. His phone buzzed. He checked it. His face shifted. Another buzz. Then his phone rang. He answered, sharp. Elias. A pause. Bram's eyes flicked to me. His voice lowered. You're representing her. He ended the call and stared at me as if I'd changed shape. Yes, I said. You planned this, he hissed. I prepared, I replied. There's a difference. He left my office with the kind of silence that promised escalation. For a moment, I stood still in the doorway, listening to his footsteps fade down the hall. I waited for the familiar tremble, the one that used to come after his anger, when my body would scramble to fix what he broke. It didn't come. Not because I was numb, because I was done negotiating with someone who thought my name was his tool. I went back behind the bookshelf, closed the hidden door, and opened Orchid like you open a file you've been avoiding, because you already know what's inside. The dashboard didn't flatter me with comfort. It gave me structure. I built a chain of custody folder first, because nothing matters if it can be questioned. I exported the bank meeting documents. I captured time-stamped screenshots of the signing certificate. I pulled the log entries that showed an export of my token at 3:12 a.m. I captured device fingerprints, what the system recognized, what it should have recognized, and what had been spoofed. Then Orchid compiled a forensic timeline. Minute by minute, step by step, without emotion. A story told in numbers. It produced a risk matrix in the language banks loved. Likelihood, impact, exposure. It attached plain descriptions for humans. Duplicated authorization, suspicious routing, shell layering, identity misuse. And as it ran, it kept flagging secondary anomalies. Smaller transfers that looked ordinary until you saw the pattern. Not dramatic amounts. Clean amounts. The kind that slip under attention. Unusual loans. Covenants quietly strained. Transfers labeled routine rebalancing that always ended up in the same family of entities. Bram hadn't planned one theft. He'd been bleeding the empire slowly, then prepping a final, massive move, one that would leave my name on the paperwork like a fuse. My phone buzzed with another message from Bram. Bram, call the bank now. I didn't answer. I sent Orchid's compiled report to Juno and Elias. Then I sent a preservation request directly to the bank's compliance lead, formal and boring on purpose. Subject: Preservation Notice. Suspected fraudulent authorization body. Please preserve all records related to the attempted transfer instruction dated today, including internal communications and access logs. Counsel to follow. Boring is powerful. Boring is hard to smear. After that, I made the decision that shifted this from a marital betrayal to a legal event. I filed a formal report to the Securities Authority: attempted fraud, identity misuse, suspected asset stripping. The submission portal thanked me with a confirmation number. A case number doesn't care who your husband is. Within the hour, the bank's head of risk called. Mrs. Wycliffe, a woman's voice said, crisp and controlled. We received documentation from your counsel. We need to speak immediately. I put her on speaker, not because I needed the drama, but because I needed the record. In my hidden room, my private system automatically logged the call time and duration. Facts, stacked carefully. I can answer questions, I said. Did you authorize the transfer? She asked. No. Did you provide consent for use of your signing certificate? No. Have you granted access to your devices or credentials to Mr. Wycliffe? No. Her voice sharpened a fraction, not toward me, toward the situation. We are placing immediate restrictions on all related accounts. Compliance is opening an investigation. Regulators will be notified. For your safety, I recommend you do not discuss this with your spouse. It's already being discussed, I said quietly. A pause. Then her voice softened, just enough to be human. I'm sorry this is happening to you. I didn't want pity, but I accepted the acknowledgement like a stamp on reality. Thank you, I said. When the call ended, my hands were steady. My chest hurt in a contained way, like grief held behind a door. I didn't cry. Not because I couldn't. Because I knew tears would come later, when they wouldn't cost me leverage. That night, I didn't go to the bedroom. I stayed in my hidden room and watched Orchid's alerts. Every time the system confirmed a hold, it felt like a lock turning. Not on Bram, on my own survival. At dawn, I heard movement drawers. A zipper. The urgency of someone who believed running was strategy. I pulled up a security feed I'd installed months earlier and never mentioned. Bram was packing, Passport out. Suit bag. Fast, controlled. Orchid flashed again. Attempted transfer new instruction. Amount, $250 million. Different path. Same intent. He was trying again. I expanded the hold, clean and official. All outbound transfers above $1 million. Suspended pending investigation. Confirm. Another quiet status change. My phone rang. Bram. I answered because silence becomes guilt in the wrong hands. You've made a mistake, he said, too smooth. Juno hates me. She's poisoning you. I'm letting facts speak, I replied. You don't understand what you triggered, he hissed. Lenders, investors, the board understands fraud, I said. A pause. Then his voice sharpened. You think you're in control? You're not. You're a spouse, a name on paper. I'll bury you. I already filed, I said. Silence, real silence. Then softer. What did you file? Attempted fraud. Identity misuse. Asset stripping, I replied. You can't prove it. I don't need to convince you, I said. I need to convince the people who don't profit from your lies. He breathed thinly. If you do this, you burn everything. Not everything, I said. Just what was built on theft. Then he whispered, as if it frightened him. You were never supposed to be this. Aware, capable, uncontrollable. I know, I said. That's your problem. I ended the call. At 8:07 a.m., Juno arrived with Elias and security. We left the penthouse together, not hiding, not apologizing. At the boardroom, the air wasn't reverent anymore. It was wary. Bram's chair sat empty at the head of the table, his throne suddenly a vacancy. Sloane, the interim chair, cleared his throat. Mrs. Wycliffe, thank you for coming. Elias placed folders in front of each director. Risk report suspected fraud. Is this accurate? Sloane asked. Yes, I said. A younger director's face drained as he read. If this is accurate, lenders will trigger covenants. They will, I replied, because the structure was already unstable. You just didn't know. Sloane looked up. Where is Bram? Elias answered, attempting to leave. A murmur spread. Fear, not outrage, fear for themselves. Sloane's eyes returned to mine. What do you want? I heard Bram's earlier question like a sneer. This one wasn't a trap. It was a decision point. I want the company protected, I said. Employees protected. Shareholders protected. And I want the truth treated like the priority it is. You're asking us to suspend him, the younger director said. Yes, I replied. Pending investigation. If you don't, lenders will assume complicity. Sloane took a breath and looked around the table. All in favor of suspending Bram Wycliffe as CEO pending investigation. Hands rose. 1, then 2, then 3, then the rest. Because survival is the only loyalty boardrooms respect. Motion passes, Sloane said. Elias's phone buzzed. He checked it and looked up. Bram's private jet request was denied, he said. Airport notified. He's blocked pending court review. A ripple of shock moved through the room. My chest didn't swell with triumph. It released. Because Bram had always moved like gravity didn't apply. Now it did. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow I have a special story for you. The statement went out an hour later, short, factual, impossible to dramatize without looking ridiculous. The board has suspended Mr. Bram Wycliffe pending investigation into suspected fraudulent authorization and attempted improper transfers. The company is cooperating fully with banking partners and regulators. No insults, no emotion. Just reality. Still, the world did what it always did. It searched for a villain it could understand. My phone filled with unknown numbers. Commentators wanted the wife's reaction. Reporters wanted a quote they could twist into a headline. Then Vera Wycliffe called. I almost didn't answer. Then I remembered, silence is a canvas other people paint on. I answered. Rhea, she said, voice sharp as crystal. What have you done? I stopped fraud, I replied. You humiliated my son. Your son tried to move $19 billion using my name, I said. A thin pause. You don't understand how this family survives, she whispered. I understand perfectly, I said. It survives by sacrificing women and calling it loyalty. Her breath came tight. You'll regret turning against us. I already regretted staying, I said. This is me correcting it. I ended the call, hands steady. Across the city, Bram tried to do what he always did, control the narrative. His assistant leaked a line about concerns for my well-being. A friendly columnist mentioned stress and exhaustion, the same words Bram had tried to push into my mouth. It didn't stick. Because the bank had logs. Because the board had minutes. Because the truth had a timestamp. And Bram, for the first time in his life, couldn't buy a different one. By evening, lenders had already triggered reviews. Partners paused. The first wave of confidence drained out of the empire like water from a cracked glass. At 6:44 p.m., a court notification hit my phone. Asset freeze approved. Emergency restraining order granted. I stared at the judge's signature and felt something settle in me. Quiet, undeniable. Truth doesn't need me to scream. It needs me to endure. That night, Juno called again. He tried to access Treasury. Locked out. He's on his way to your building. I know, I said. I watched the lobby feed. Bram argued with security. His face was pale with fury that his name didn't work the way it used to. Elias message. Do not engage. Record everything. I made one final decision. I wouldn't hide in my own home. I'd end this the way Bram hated most. With witnesses, with records, with calm. I told security to let him up with officers in the hall and cameras recording. The elevator dinged. The door opened. Bram stepped in like a man returning to property he believed belonged to him. His eyes found mine and held. You did this, he said. Yes, I replied. You've destroyed everything. No, I said. I exposed what was already rotten. He took a step and stopped when security shifted in the hall. His voice softened into strategy. We can fix this. We can tell them it was a misunderstanding. No, I said. You're my wife. Not for long, I replied. His jaw clenched. You don't have the courage to leave. Bram, I said quietly. I already left. You just didn't notice. He stared at me like he was trying to find the version of me he could control. You think you bankrupted my empire, he said, low and vicious. But you don't understand. I am the empire. I walked to the entry console and lifted one sheet of paper. The restraining order. I held it out. His eyes flicked to the signature at the bottom. Not mine. Not his. A system bigger than his name. For the first time, Bram looked shaken. He tried to hide it. He failed. You did this in one day, he murmured. I did what you underestimated, I replied. He swallowed, then rebuilt his mask in real time. Good night, Rhea, he said, voice icy. He turned and walked out. The door closed, and the penthouse went quiet. Back in my hidden room, Orchid's dashboard glowed as the empire reacted to truth. Credit lines suspended. Liquidity risk flagged. Bankruptcy counsel engaged. A market halt requested pending investigation. Bram had always believed his empire was untouchable. But empires don't collapse because a wife gets emotional. They collapse because the numbers stop lying. I leaned back and let a quiet feeling settle in my chest. Not vengeance, relief. Tomorrow I would sign divorce papers. But I didn't wait for tomorrow to begin leaving. I opened the small safe in my hidden room and placed my ring inside like it was evidence, not jewelry. I drafted a simple inventory of what was mine: patents, code repositories, the entity that held Orchid's rights, and emailed it to Elias with one sentence: "Lock this down tonight." Then I sat back down, because calm isn't the absence of pain. It's the decision not to let pain drive the pen. I didn't feel fearless. I felt free enough to keep going. "This isn't the end of my story," I whispered. "It's the first honest chapter. 2 more great stories are next. Don't miss them. Subscribe and turn on notifications.